But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third episode of the Standout. This is the first virtual episode of the Standout, and I am super pumped. This is incredibly special to me because for months I was saying, well, I want all the episodes of the Standout to be in person. And this led me to not taking action because I didn't have enough people around me and I wasn't reaching out enough to actually get people in the seat and do the thing. So I decided, let's have a bias towards action. Let's just get this thing virtual and make steps forward. So this is the first virtual episode, and I have my incredible friend and someone that I've got to get to know a lot better here over the last 6 months, and really someone who's made an impact on my life in such a short period of time. Love hanging out with you. Nick Bastianelli, he is a investor. He is a realtor. He's got a team. He is making some massive moves in the real estate investing space, particularly in boutique hotels, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, and we're going to get into a bunch of those things. So with that, Nick, welcome to the show.
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me here. Excited to hang out.
I am excited. And as always, your hair
Oh,
looks
thanks.
amazing.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Amazing.
Got a little flyaway right there, but all
Hey,
good.
it's the imperfections that make it perfect.
Oh, thanks.
Um, but dude, like I mentioned, you got your hands in a number of different things.
Yeah,
But just give us, a high level. What
sure.
are the things that make Nick Nick? Give us a little bit about your story and
Cool.
talk to us about where you came from.
Sure. Okay. Well, biggest things to me, I am married to my wife, Nicole, and she's awesome. We've been together for coming up on 13 years. We've been married for over seven, and we have two daughters. So they're Gracie and Mila. Gracie's 8, Mila's 6. So they're kind of like the driving force behind a lot of things. I know a lot of entrepreneurs say that. I've said that forever. And that's kind of been a thing I've really learned to like actually put my actions where my words are. That's been a big learning lesson for me over the years. But yeah, they're their primary goal for me, right? I think a lot about legacy. That's where we met, which I think is cool. But that's my big goal. Yeah, I'm a real estate broker, real estate investor. I live in Metro Detroit, Michigan, and I've been here all my life. I've been entrepreneurial forever. I started with gyms, opened my first gym at 23. My wife was 19. So we
Yeah,
opened one.
dude, let's dive into that a little bit.
Okay, cool.
So you've always been entrepreneurial.
Very
What does
entrepreneurial.
what does that mean to you? Like when you were a kid,
Yes,
when you were a teenager, what were some of the
sure.
indications now that you have the information that you have now?
Yep.
What were some of those indications back then?
Yeah, so I had a very strong desire to support myself, right? For whatever reason. I mean, it's probably like outside the scope of this conversation, but I felt like a very strong desire and need to be able to support myself as rapidly as possible. So when I was 12, I started getting a ride to the local country club, like every 5 in the morning to be a caddy, like working a lot at that age. And then, when I started getting into some trouble, I was very entrepreneurial in that space and supporting myself and my what will we say, unproductive habits. And yeah, I don't know, I just always was kind of like hustling and like thinking about business, really. And so senior year of high school, I wanted to go to school for business in college, and a guidance counselor was like, no, you can't do that, everybody gets a degree in business, like you need to go for something else. And so I listened to that person, and I've thought about that for a long time. I think I'm curious what life would have been like. But yeah. Anyways, long story short, I did end up getting into some unproductive activities for a really long time. From like 13, I got sober at 20. It's a huge part of my story. And that at 23, we ended up opening our first gym. So yeah, that's kind of like a high level overview, but yeah,
That's
surprising.
high level. Dude, there's plenty to unpack in there. There's good stuff.
There's a lot.
And
Yeah.
dude, I know from conversations that you and I have had that
Yeah.
that country club experience seemed to have a pretty big impact on you. You were rubbing shoulders with some people. Talk
Yeah.
to us about what it was like to be the caddy at the country club.
Yeah, it was kind of like a window. Definitely would not say like I wasn't poor, but we didn't have like extra money, and I was very well aware of that. Um, and so my dad worked in construction. Like when I was really little, he was hanging windows in tough areas in like Detroit and stuff for wall side windows. And then he would come home from work and be exhausted. And my mom would go wait tables at night. They're both very hard workers and they kind of like progressed. My dad kept moving up in the construction companies he worked at. So it was cool. I saw progress, but man, working at that country club was like a window into a totally different life. And it was eye opening, honestly. First of all, it was just mind blowing that people were spending the middle of the day golfing for like 3 or 4 hours. I was like, this is different than my home experience, and I might like to do that. I don't
Right.
even golf, but like I'd like to have the ability to do this. And I remember people rolling up in really wild cars and having really wild watches. And it was just different than my experience. And it made me super curious about what these people did and how they got to where they were. So, yeah, I mean, I think it sparked a lot of curiosity very young for me.
And I mean, for anybody listening, even though you were a kid, you don't have the business knowledge that you have
Sure.
now, but
Yeah.
we know by our environments shape us.
Yeah.
Our environments are a very big indicator about where we're going to go.
Yeah.
Usually, the harder the environment, there's two different paths that you can take, right?
Sure.
But you being surrounded by people who were doing life in a absolutely completely different way than what you were used to
Yeah.
gave you insight to, well, if they can do it,
Possible.
it's possible, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So, I mean, you saw the cars, you saw people spending money, you saw people investing their time, spending their
Time.
time. Now,
Yes.
were you privy to any of the conversations that were
It
happening?
was. Yeah, so it was interesting. So I learned a lot of things that I wanted. And I also learned a lot of things that I didn't want. It was abundantly clear to me that there were all the people at this country club were likely wealthy, or at least they appeared that way. They presented that way, which was interesting in and of itself. But I saw people who were wealthy and happy, and then I saw people who were unwealthy and very, very unhappy and focused on things like, even at that point in time in my life, like the cars and watches and golfing, like this stuff was cool. But I am very grateful that I was really just, I felt like my parents were super stressed, dude. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, I felt how stressed that they were about money and time. And I don't know if that's because they really were, but that's what it felt like to me. And I just knew it was there was no way I was going to do that. And so, yeah, I started like really paying attention to the people who had what I wanted from a really early age. And that was kind of intuitive. I later, when I got sober and got into like, AA and working that's like a huge part of that. But I'm just grateful that was kind of like an intuitive part of my life, and I was exposed to people who are living a different life than me.
Dude, that's really huge. And, from what I know about you, I know how you carry yourself. I know how you speak. I know how you dress. I know how you take care of yourself. Do
Mhm.
you think that experience as a caddy had a big play on that? Because, like, I know about you, you walk with confidence, you dress well. I
Thanks.
mean, I mentioned your hair, it's always looking sharp,
Thank
right?
you.
And I don't say that to be coy. I say
Sure.
that because, man,
Yeah.
when I see you, that's what, man, this guy's taken care of. He is taking care of his stuff. He looks sharp and he's
Yeah.
about his business.
Well, thank
Would you say that that was a big play on that?
I don't know if it's like a huge play, but it was definitely probably my first exposure to that. And it definitely had like, it was something that I thought about regularly. I was not equipped with the tools at that time in my life to like really apply the principles, but it was the first time my eyes were really open. And so, kind of like anything, like the first step towards progress is realizing like, hey, there may be a step that needs to be taken. And so, yeah,
Right.
that was definitely an early part of the journey for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I mean, after this, it seems like the entrepreneurial journey is never linear, right? The path to success is not an arrow straight up, even though it always looks that way, right? When we get on social media, when we look around, we see people who either struggled and then boom, they had quadrillion dollars. They had the cars, they had the money, they had the success, quote unquote.
Yep.
But I mean, you went from being on your journey, you went from being a caddy. You said you got into some
Yeah.
maybe some more undesirable type of
Sure.
behaviors.
Yeah.
I'd like to dive into that. I mean, because I think that's such an important part of, when I was going through my journey, it didn't look, I mean, I'm just coming out of a trough. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
hills and there's troughs. Talk to us about that season, and then
sure.
I'd of course like to hear how you clawed your way out of that darkness.
Yeah, so this is probably the most important thing, most impactful thing that's happened in my life. Totally changed everything. So when I was 12, my parents got divorced. I also switched from private, like a private Catholic school, to a public school, right? My parents got divorced in the summer. And then 1 month later, I'm in a brand new school where I go from 25 kids I've known my entire life, Catholic school setting, to, I don't know, what, 1,500 kids in a Novi
Wow.
high school. And I literally watched some kid get punched in the face and his nose like exploded with blood the first day. First week, somebody offered me drug. And this is like a very affluent, incredible school district, right? So it was jarring. All right. Massive dramatic changes in my life. And as a young kid, I did not know how to deal with that. I wasn't emotionally equipped with tools. And so I made a very poor decision to start using drugs and drinking. I grew up on a street here in Novi, and maybe there was like 10 of us, and all of us got involved in drugs, right? All of our parents worked a lot. The neighbor 2 doors down, the dad was an alcohol vendor. And so the whole basement was like basically like a liquor storage area. I mean, just walls. And so I started drinking, and I realized that I could kind of forget about my problems. They were genuine problems. I didn't know how to fix them, my challenges. And so I got blackout drunk the first time I ever drank. A full
Wow.
blackout drunk.
Wow.
Yeah, as a 12-year-old. And then that progressed, to that being a regular thing at sleepovers. And then I smoked weed for the first time. And then I got Vicodin from a wisdom tooth extraction, and that led to Oxycontin. And then I really was entrepreneurial. And so I realized that Oxycontin costs a lot of money and I could buy heroin for less. And so I would do the heroin and sell the Oxycontin so that I could support my habit. My parents were divorced. I stopped talking to my dad altogether for many, many years. And my mom has worked at Marriott for 25 years now. But she was just really busy being a single mom, quote unquote. I mean, my dad is still living close, but not part of my life. And she was just trying to hold it together, dude. She was so strict. My grandparents lived in the same sub as me, so they'd check on me all day, and I needed a way to support my drug and alcohol habit as a teenager because she watched my bank account. So that's why I started selling drugs, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah, because I knew that if money came in my bank account from I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins, and Togo's, it was like one little fast food thing. She knew how much I made. And so I couldn't pull that money out and have no excuse for it. And so I started selling drugs. And that progressed very rapidly. All the kids on my block started getting arrested. And, then I'm the only one with literally the only kid on the street left with my license. So I'm driving all my friends to their probation officer appointments. And then I'm
Wow.
driving them to rehab, outpatient rehab. I'm really kind of like glossing it over, but man, it was years of like really significant drug use. So, I became an IV heroin user, and 18th birthday, I went to rehab inpatient for the first time. I came out, I went to an outpatient Suboxone clinic. I wound up back in inpatient again 6 months later, just terrifying my mother. I mean, it was bad, dude. Going to Detroit, pick up drugs all the time. So yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't like a surface level experimental phase. This was full blown.
This was deep, man.
Yeah, many, many friends have overdosed and passed away. And so long story short, I got sober at 20. I'm wildly grateful for that,
Yeah.
um,
So, I mean, dude, this is just a huge testament because, like you said,
crazy.
most people don't
Yeah.
make it out of that.
Yeah.
Most people, especially when they get to that stage that you were at for years,
Yeah.
just like you said, this isn't surface level. This was a years long
Yeah.
in the black, like just
Not good.
this surviving. And
Yeah.
most
Like
people don't
barely.
make that out.
Yeah. It was bad, dude. I mean, literally like multiple of my best friends have passed away from overdoses. So it was really tough, man. It got super hard. It was very eye opening because I was like a super smart, very good at, I mean, this sounds weird, but I was always did well in school and really good at sports and well liked. And, but but I was just really deeply uncomfortable around people. I just felt like people didn't like me and I felt uncomfortable. You know, it was just it was an odd thing to feel very like have a lot of willpower, right? Even from a young age, like very probably atypically determined, right? Pretty focused as a child on sports, like not being a dip to then like, you know, having a drug and alcohol habit and not being able to stop. It was
Right.
it was mind blowing. Honest, I mean, there are so many nights where I just spent you know, a lot of hours just like smoking cigarettes on my friend's porch, just like crying, like, man, I don't want to do this again tomorrow. Like, I can't do this
Mm,
anymore. Like, I'm killing my family. You
right.
know, they're watching this and it's bad. And we all know it's bad. And I know
Wow.
where this leads and I can't stop. Like, I'd just wake up the next day and I'd be so sick and have to do it again. And it was really shocking, but I'm wildly grateful that it occurred because it led to what I believe is a solid relationship with God. I realized like, hey, it's not all about me. Like,
Yeah.
if I could solve this particular problem, I definitely would have done that by
Yeah.
this point in time. I don't have a desire to do this. It's been years since it's made me feel better. But I couldn't stop on my own. So yeah, it led to a relationship with a higher power. And that's how I met my wife. She's also been sober. So I've been sober for over 14 years and my wife's been
Dude,
sober for over 13 years.
congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely congratulations. You know, we've talked about this before at length, and dude,
Yeah.
it goes to show that you're obviously here to do
Yeah.
more. Like, you sharing this story right now is not just for you. It is for you, but it's for anybody out there who might be struggling, whether it's with drugs, whether it's alcohol, any type of dependency, any type of addiction, any
Yeah.
type relationship addiction, sex addiction. Like, that's huge, man, because you are here and now you're living out what it's like to come out of the other side of that. But
Yeah.
just to take it back a little bit, I mean, what we were talking about our environment is
Yeah.
so key here. You were
Yeah.
you were working as a caddy around people who were living at a new standard for themselves, a new level of wealth, health, relationships, those types of things where they were afforded the time freedom, the financial freedom to go play golf in the middle of the day and do a number of other
Totally.
things. And
Yep.
then you get thrust into a new environment, a high school where there's 1,500 people versus your 25 to
Yeah.
100. And now it is a completely different world. So
Yeah.
where your trajectory was headed in one way, your
Mhm.
environment now shifted you into another one. And what you said was really key. I wasn't equipped to handle the new reality of my situation,
Yeah.
which is why it's so important now as adults that we are very, very strict on the people and things that we allow into our life and allow to have influence over us, because you went into a whole, it sent your life into a completely different world. But of
Yeah.
course, like, of course, we both believe in God, and I believe that those things happen so you could have, it was a setback, but it was a setback for a set up for what you've become now. And
Agreed.
that's just, man, so huge.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more. It's kind of like an intentional thing. Like, I very much do not shy away from this conversation, especially in public settings. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, if that didn't organically come up in our conversation, I wouldn't force it in here.
Right.
But yeah, I believe that I have a responsibility as a person who lived through that situation, right? Like, quote, by the grace of God, I can't,
Definitely.
you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just me, clearly, because I tried for years on my own and tried a bunch of other stuff. I firmly believe that it is my responsibility and duty to tell others, like, hey, this is possible. And like, if you're having this particular issue, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a death sentence. Like, there is a way out and there is a program that has tools so that you can change your life. And like,
Right.
you know, if you asked me the day I got sober, like what I would have, my wildest dreams, what I would have hoped for is literally just to not drink and do drugs and like
Mm.
not think about it all day. That probably would have been the extent of it, honestly. And the life I have now is just like so far beyond the scope of anything that I imagined for myself during those like super dark years, you know? So
Yeah. And I mean, my sister, you know, I've talked about this. My sister passed away earlier this year
yeah,
from the same things that you were struggling with, right?
yeah,
And for anybody listening, my sister was one of the most hardworking, joyful, caring people that I knew. But
yeah,
sometimes there's just a file. in the back of the filing cabinet that never gets pulled. It
Yeah.
never gets looked through and it never gets fixed. And those are some of the things that hold us down. Right. So if you know somebody who's struggling, if you're struggling yourself, that deep work or that using the things that come and afflict your life, the trains and the hammers that come down on you,
Yeah.
using those to set you up. So with that being said, because
Yep.
I kind of want to transition to some of the business stuff, but talk to us really quickly about that journey to sobriety. Like, was there a
Sure.
catalyst to getting you like, dude, now is the time to make a shift? And then what did that turn into? The momentum.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try and do it briefly for you here, but it was years of not wanting to do that, right? And just trying things like, hey, I'll do alcohol, not drugs, drugs, not alcohol, like all the whatever things. And so I couldn't figure it out, which is wildly frustrating because I knew I was smart and I knew I was determined. But what really happened is I love my mom. I'm wildly close to my mom. I went to her birthday when I was 20 years old, and I was withdrawing from alcohol. And I hadn't done drugs in an extended period of time. I was still drinking, but I went to Michigan State, got faced, and I heckled people for things they couldn't change about their life, which I had never done. And so that was just it's probably sounds so anticlimactic to people. Like I didn't get arrested. I had been arrested before. I didn't get arrested that night. I didn't get into a fight. Nothing really bad. I was just so upset with myself that I couldn't make it through my mom's birthday. And
Wow.
like, yep. And that I went and made fun of people for things they couldn't change about them. So those, those two things are so far away from what I ever wanted to be. And so, I felt hopeless. So yeah, I went to a meeting. Really, that's it, dude. I just felt overwhelming shame and hopelessness. I was pretty much not pretty much, I was blacked out. I kind of came to at an AA meeting. I had just moved to a new city called Rochester, like 55 minutes away from where I grew up. Went to a meeting, told him I can't do this anymore. Old guy across from me who had like 35 years of sobriety said, you don't have to. I was like, I'm sure 50,000 people have told me this before, but today's the day, I got
Yeah.
hit with a 2x4. And the most important thing I want to tell people is like, I didn't have the solution and they did. And so I had to, the pain had to be great enough for me to listen to other people. And I did. I was literally assigned a sponsor, like a mentor, for anybody else who's not in that community. And I did everything those people asked me to do, literally.
Wow.
That's it. All I did was go to meetings, work out. I literally would bring my dinner to the AA meetings and show up 30 minutes before. And I'm like, these guys are they have no life. Why do they show up 45 minutes before? I'm like, I'm 20. I'm like, these guys, like, do I really want to be part of this? You know what I mean? And I just realized these guys were showing up for me, Trevor. Literally.
Wow.
I'm like, these dudes are here because I am having a hard time one day.
That's
So weird.
crazy.
They're like hanging out with their friends and they're there to like be of service. And I thought, I am such an asshole. All I'm doing is thinking about me and how depressing these guys' lives are. And all they're doing is thinking about how they can help me and hang out with their friends. You know?
Dude, different levels of mentors. Like just like we were
Oh,
talking about earlier, you're here on this planet for a reason. You might
yeah.
not be here to make $1 billion or start a business or whatever, but those dudes literally set your life on track to be a
Dude,
completely different person.
like unquestionably saved my life. Yeah, for sure. None of
Man,
them were none of them, I never would have picked to hang, not in a bad way. They're wonderful men, but like I wouldn't have ever been in contact with them otherwise.
wow.
And it was mind blowing to me that these people would dedicate their time to me. And I was addicted, honestly, like kind of a pain in the ass. And for whatever reason, they were selfless enough to dedicate their time. And so I believe it's my responsibility to do that again for others.
Absolutely. And what you said was so important. We won't until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, we won't do anything. For
Yeah.
years of time, the pain of staying the same seemed like it was less than the pain of change. And so
Yeah.
you did nothing until one day it was too much. Your mom, someone who is so close to you,
Yeah.
we got to use those. We got to use the things that are most significant to us in life. Be like, that's why we're doing it. Yes, there's this, start with why. Why do you do the things that you do?
Yeah.
Is a pretty generalized statement, but at surface level, if you go, when you ask people what their why is, they're always going to tell you a who.
Yeah.
There is a who in
Yeah.
your life. whether it's your spouse, whether it's your children, whether it's your mom,
Yeah.
whether it is someone close to you, a best friend that passed away, something significant, it always comes down to a who.
Yeah.
And you used your who to
Yeah.
get you to a new level. It was your mom. You
Mhm.
needed to change. And man, for anybody listening, that's really powerful. And you might not be addicted to something right now, but we all have problems and we all have things in life that are
Sure.
holding us down. We can all experience a certain level, an unlimited, untapped level of greatness when we tie it to a who and just open up the floodgates. You use this catalyst, you got sober, you
Yeah.
started a gym, and talk to us about how the gym came to fruition and
Sure.
yeah, how all that came to be.
Yeah, so I've just been a gym rat like my whole life, right? My dad was like a bodybuilder competing in shows. My mom was wildly active, like a ballerina into her early 20s and like coach fitness classes. And I was just obsessed with sports my whole life, dude. I don't even watch any sports, but I want to play a sport all day. I literally don't care what it is. But like I want to compete in something. And and so yeah, I started working out super young. I mean, I remember being really little. We had a home gym. My dad would set me down on the bench, like little, single digits, really young, watching my dad like work out, and he's got like the sick bodybuilding posters on the wall, and like it was just part of my life, you know?
Right.
And so I was really an angry teenager. I was so upset about what was happening in my life. It felt really out of control. And so like a weight room was a place that I could like, it made me feel better. Like I could get out I had like serious anger issues, dude. Um, and so I'd lift and I'd be able to like get that out in a productive way and I'd feel way better after. So the gym has always been like home for
Mm,
me, like a very comforting place. And so yeah, that kept going on and on. I went to my first CrossFit class when I was 22, and literally like the second class, I found out then in order to coach CrossFit classes and own a gym, all you needed was like this one certification, and it was $1,000. I had $250 in my account, and that was the exact amount of the deposit. Okay.
mm.
So I emptied my bank account to hold a spot in the certification, which was going to be in Ohio. I had no extra money. I didn't know how I was going to, it's funny now, but I didn't know how I was going to find $750. I was going to college and had no money. I just knew it needed to happen. So it was literally like my second class, sign up. And then, I still like somehow I scrounged up enough money. And then literally like the week of, mom's like, where are you staying? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't have any money to stay anywhere. Like I might, whatever, stay in my car, I guess. And like a freaking dude, this is like God works in mysterious ways, mom always says, but a check showed up from like I had done my taxes incorrectly and I got like $180 check, and that's how I went to this freaking thing, dude.
Wow.
Isn't that
That
nuts?
is insane.
I was getting a lot of help in life, right? I just kind of gotten
Wow.
sober. And I'm maybe my third year of sobriety, having a really hard time of life, honestly. We glossed over some other really challenging things that happened, but there's a really famous saying that I love, that I think all the time. When we move, Providence moves too. Like when we move, God helps.
Mm,
I was absolutely committed to a different life.
wow.
And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it worked out. And so I got that certification. I coached at that gym for 9 months. I came home one day, me and my wife, Nicole, we were, just dating then. Came home, and my wife's mom, who was like one of my favorite people ever, she passed away from cancer a few years ago, but
Mm,
we hung out with her all day, dude. We just hung out at her house. She's so entrepreneurial. I came home one day to like her house to hang out, and she's like, "Hey, my friend is gonna give you two enough money to open your own gym." And we're like, "What?"
wow.
What do you mean? Because like three people had approached me and Nicole and said like, "Hey, we'll back you if you want to run your own gym." And we're like, "No, for whatever, just probably wouldn't be a good fit."
Okay.
We had told her mom about it, and she told her friend, and her friend's like, "Yeah, I'll just give him the money." Like,
That
I
is
well,
insane.
yeah, but we were like, "What?" Like we just kept thinking this is never gonna happen. I'm so grateful for this woman. I don't know if she wants people to publicly know who she is, but she absolutely changed the trajectory of our life. She gave us a huge step up. Nicole and I were freshly sober, trying to make a life for ourselves, and she made that happen, dude. So
Wow. I mean,
She had no terms, dude. She just gave us the money and we were like, well, we got to pay you back. She's like, okay, like you figured it out, but like, I'm not asking you for anything, just like return the money. So we set up a monthly plan and we picked the interest rate.
that's
So
amazing.
she was investing and changing our lives, and she absolutely did. Those gyms, dude, there's, like three key events in my life, maybe three key positive events, and that is one of them. We made so many friends in those gyms. I sold my first house to a gym member in there who told everybody else, and I sold a load of houses, so that got us into real estate. I mean, the
It
impact of
seems
that
like
one thing.
it seems like you've had these really key people
Yeah,
in your life that were just giving. They
yeah,
expected nothing in return. I mean, the
yeah,
mentors that you had showing up to your sobriety classes,
dude,
they
huge.
expected
Yeah,
nothing in return. They just showed up. They were just there. And
yeah,
then this friend of your grandmother's,
yeah.
right?
My wife's mom's friend. Yep. Yeah,
Yes,
that
she wanted nothing in return.
dude
Just, hey,
helping.
just go and change your life. And I'm sure that she's received all kinds of blessings in her life because she was willing to be so selfless in her pursuit to help somebody else. And that was you. And now you are selfless in your pursuit to help other people. You said it's your duty to help others, which is, man, that's the entrepreneurial mindset that I love. That building a business on good, building a business to make other people's lives better. And that's definitely something that I respect about you.
Oh,
And you mentioned, you know, once you start moving, what was the phrase again? You
when we move, God moves too, or when we move, Providence moves too. It's a quote from a guy who climbed Everest. I think it's like Sir Edmund Hillary. I think you should look at it. I'll send it to you after because I think about the principles and like the idea behind it literally all the time. Like when
yeah,
I made a big, bold decision towards something that I have no idea how I'm going to make happen, but I know it is the right thing, life helps me. And that God, whatever phrase people want to put in there, but like life helps when I am trying to do good things. And I am so certain of that. I can't even begin. I have countless examples like that check in the mailbox. Like, my wife's mom's best friend sending, just literally giving us like things happen when you're trying to do a good thing. So
right. And you
yeah.
you shifted your whole mindset. You were in this negative energy. You were
Yeah.
putting out bad vibes
Bad
probably
vibes,
before
dude.
before you had gotten sober, right? You
Yeah.
were bad vibes
Was,
only, bro.
wasn't good.
But you then decided I need to make a change.
Yeah.
And you started moving in that direction. If you decide I need to make a change and you do nothing, nothing's going to happen for you. But when you move, providence moves with you. And my mentor, I was talking to him about I couldn't make a decision on what to do, which direction to go.
Yeah.
And he broke it down for me. You're a sports guy, so you'll appreciate this. A shoestring tackle in football is when somebody comes up, you're running full speed, you got the ball, they slap you in the ankle, slap you on the shoestrings, and you go flying,
Yeah.
right? But if you were sitting on the couch and someone came and slapped you on the shoestrings, you'd probably
Yeah.
kick him in the face. You'd probably get
Yeah.
away from me. I don't want you slapping me on the
Yeah.
shoestrings. But the point that he was making is how much easier is it for God to move you or nudge you in the right direction when you're
Sure.
already taking steps forward? Versus
Yeah.
if God tries to get you to do something while you're sitting on the couch, you're going to
Yeah.
be like, I'm sitting on the couch right now. So
Absolutely.
it's so important for us. The Bible talks about the steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord, but he can't order your steps if you're not taking any. God
Yeah.
is not going to come down and just do things for you. You have to start moving, and you were doing that.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to your journey
Mhm.
to, okay, so you got sober,
Yes.
you started a gym, you
Yeah.
sold your house to somebody that lived in the gym, and then you got into real estate. Talk
Mhm.
to us about you getting into real estate. And then I know there's probably another mentor in there somewhere.
There is. Okay. So, all right. I get sober and I have my first sponsor. It's called there, my first mentor. Run through the steps multiple times. And then I get this other sponsor who I ended up sticking with for many years. I'm running the gyms, learning a lot by doing, which is how I typically learn, just jumping in, figuring out and doing stuff. And this mentor was a commercial real estate appraiser. He still is. And he owned a real estate brokerage. And I would go on this annual golf trip with him and his friends every year. And I didn't golf. And they were totally different. A lot of them were 10 to 15, 20 years older than me. And I literally just went every year because these guys had what I wanted. Right. And so my sponsor, this dude, the commercial appraiser who owns the brokerage, was saying like, hey, I really think you should get into real estate. And this is going on for months. And I'm like, hey, look, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. And he kept saying like, I think it would be really good for you. Like these gyms are really fulfilling, but they're not supporting you at all financially. And like you have children now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm so stressed about that. So one time I'm literally crying in his Jeep Wrangler driving up to a golf thing because I'm so broke. And Chase Bank is going to drop me as a client. And I have 2 gyms, so it looks like I have my shit together, but I have infants and no money, and I'm so stressed. Like dying, wow. Dude, dying. Literally, like carrying a negative 15-hour balance. I'm not joking. Chase literally sent us a letter like, we're going to close your accounts if you don't get them current. And I'm crying in this freaking Jeep Wrangler. And he's like, dude, you got to get into real estate. Like, I will pay for your course and the test if you come work at my brokerage. I'm like, damn it. But like, you removed the only thing, which is money standing in the way. So I did it. And I didn't want to do it. But this guy had led me, he had what I wanted. He had led me down a good path for a long time, given really good insight. I got my license. I did nothing with it. I got my license in July of 2018. November, I had a friend who wanted to buy a house. He allowed me to help him. I helped him buy a house in a place called the Royal Oak. I got the first check, which, by the way, we split 50-50, like me and the broker split. So I got 50% of it, and I still was like, holy shit, this check is a lot of money. In hindsight, it wasn't, but then it was. I mean, it's still great.
You hit the lottery.
Bro, it was like 9 weeks worth of working at the gym. And It was painful to close that first deal. I will tell you, it was wildly challenging deal. I decided to go all in. Me and my wife got together and were like, hey, we're having a really hard time and this is our way out. So we had 2 gyms. We immediately began offloading tasks off me as rapidly as possible. She took as much as she could and we rolled the rest into our staff. We got really good at systems. And every week, like I had an incremental goal, like, hey, I'm going to go from 40 hours in the gym to 38, down. And that's how I got into real estate full time. That one house turned into a lot. I sold 20 first year. I sold 38 maybe the next year, then like 48, then like 50. And I guess have kind of stayed that amount, but I went from just under 5 million in sales the first year to 10 to 17.7 in my third year. And it changed. This is the hockey stick, right? So this would be like, wow, you got successful in real estate really fast. I'm like, yeah, but I was broke with a capital B, learning all of the lessons of entrepreneurship in the most painful way for so many years before I became successful. Like, you just missed it because it looked cool because I owned gyms, but I was struggling, dude. So,
body.
That was the hockey stick. My income increased dramatically. I was used to being poor. I don't really like using that word, but I was used to having no money. So we lived off 20% and paid off a lot of debt and saved a lot of money to invest because I knew I wanted to invest long term. So that was the big thing for anybody who's experiencing their first hockey stick and income in life. Like, I watch a lot of people go to Mexico instead of a Mexican restaurant, and it causes a lot of problems.
That's good.
It's
serious. Really good.
Yeah, and so we incrementally increased the quality of our life, but we did so in a calculated way because we knew where we were going.
And a big part of that, dude, you had people that you could look to.
Yeah, I did.
To see, hey, man, I probably shouldn't go to Mexico, right? I probably shouldn't go blow this entire opportunity to set my life again on a new, continue that growth.
Yeah.
Because over time, I mean, it's those hills and troughs, but over time it moves it trends positively as long as we aren't stupid. And
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, I've been stupid. I'm sure you've been
dude,
stupid. We're all
absolutely.
stupid.
Sure.
But at the beginning, you said, okay, how can we steward what we just worked so hard to get? And instead
Correct.
of, man, that's good. A lot of people go to Mexico instead of going to a Mexican restaurant. That's a gem right there.
Yeah, well, it's not original. Got it from somebody else, but I think about it a lot, dude. I mean, I had to prove myself worthy to life. I believe in God that like, hey, I'm worthy, like I am ready, you know.
That's
I
right.
I am capable, deserving, and worthy of achieving all the things that I, hope for and dream. Like, I want to be of maximum service to myself and others. And if I'm being a dipshit, blowing all my money, like I am not being of maximum service to myself, my
Right.
family, and other people. I am not living the life that I live for a reason. Okay. And I don't know what that reason is, but I know for sure it's not spending money like a fucking idiot. Honestly, like it's to have an impact. And I believe that I should, I am worthy of being successful, and it's important to me to be so because I believe that I will be a good steward of that. Right.
Bang.
Spend that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude. I believe that I should make a lot of money because I will spend it on being of service to others. So
Yes.
it was so hard because when I was first sober, I'm like, well, I had all these moral qualms about like, I can't make a lot of money and sales is sleazy and it causes deep panic that I can't get over. And my sponsor's like, you know what, Nick, this is irritating. Sales is one of the most spiritual things I do. It's like, it is my
Mm.
responsibility to be successful because I have worked so hard on these spiritual things and I will use that for good. And there will be people who won't. And so we need more good people being successful. Like, you know,
Absolutely. The greater income we have, the more impact we can have.
totally.
Whether
Yeah.
it's shifting someone who's in a really low spot or
Yeah.
we're making memories with our closest loved ones. I mean, I was just
Yes.
talking about this the other day with somebody. It's like if I were to say, Nick, let's go check out a Lions game, the
Yeah.
Detroit Lions game. You'd be like, okay, cool. We're sitting in the
Fun.
nosebleeds. We'd have a good time. We
Sure.
talk, we chat, we go home. Hey, nothing really to write home about, but it was a good time. But if
Yeah.
I said, hey, Nick, let's go to the Lions game, but we're going to have someone drive us there. We're going to do it in box seats. So we're not going to freeze our nipples off. And
Right.
it's unlimited food, unlimited drinks.
Yep.
Granted, we're not saving the world there,
Yep.
but that's something that elevates the experience to a whole new level, and now we get to bond in a greater space. Because I just did this. I emceed an event in Indianapolis, and they
Nice.
invited us to a Sixers game or a Pacers game, and it was box seats.
Sweet.
Now, do I care about the Pacers? Not even a little bit. Couldn't
Yeah.
care less. Don't know a single person's name on the team.
Yep.
But what happened in that box was shifted everything because now I'm with all the other speakers at the conference who are doing big things in real estate, who are connected to people. And in
Yep.
that box, I met Henry Washington, who has a show on the Bigger Pockets channel called In the
Sweet.
Market. And I was just chatting with him about, hey, who do you know that runs the BP event space? I'd love a shot at the emceeing. He's like, I'll put in a word for you. And
Sweet.
that having that experience, if we were sitting in rows in the
Yeah.
nosebleeds,
Sure.
if I didn't sit right next to him, there's no shot that that would have
Yep.
happened. So the a level of income that we get is going to change the impact that we can have.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk. It's so interesting how you said again in the beginning when you went to that new high school, you weren't ready.
Mhm.
Weren't equipped to handle that new environment. But
Yep.
now that you did the work,
Mhm.
you made the decisions, and that's all life is. We are a culmination of our decisions. You made the decisions to move to a trending positive direction. Now that you made a shift to that hockey stick growth,
Yep.
now looking back, you are well equipped and in position to do the things that are necessary to keep it, all because of the decisions that you made and the people that you decided to have in your circle.
Yeah. Correct. And the decisions I make today will have an impact in the future. So it's like an ongoing thing that I have to, like, I just believe I just want to continue investing in my growth so that I can have a bigger and bigger positive impact. A lot of the stuff I'm thinking about right now, like we're buying hotels and motels and apartments, and that stuff is really cool. But what I'm really thinking about is like my impact on my family and the people around me. And the decisions I make every single day have consequences, and they can either be really good or really not. And I'm just trying to be as present as possible. Like I'm trying to get as much quality time being present and attentive in my day as I can, dude. I'm just trying to do my best here.
Dude, absolutely amazing. And so, okay, you sold a bunch of houses.
I did, yeah.
Um, and the last time that I was with you in person, you were
Yep.
talking about, delegating some of your tasks to your assistant and just getting your team oriented.
Yep.
And it seems like that you're doing that so you can kind of shift a lot of your efforts towards the investing side of things. So, talk to
Right.
us a little bit about where you're at currently in on the real estate sales sides of things, but
Sure.
also I really want to dive into talk to us about what you're doing on the investing side of things because I think it's super unique.
Cool. Okay, so in order to tell you about right now, I'll tell you I have been through this big career transition one time already. All right. So going from being full-time running 2 gyms with my wife as like co-CEO, I guess you'd say, transitioning to real estate, I learned a lot of lessons. So I offloaded tasks and then we sold those gyms, and that was a huge change. And so I knew immediately when I got into real estate sales that I wanted to invest and buy time freedom. Right. I wanted to be a very present husband and father, and I wanted to provide extraordinary opportunities for my family and many generations to come. And so that was my why. Highly motivating to me to change generations in our family. And so that's why I started saving so much money. And so when I got really busy in real estate, basically just not literally, but literally just not literally, but basically living in my truck all day, living on showings and listing appointments. I always knew this will slow down, right? I'm working towards a purpose here. I have to have enough money. Back then, I still thought I needed a bunch of money to invest, which is funny now, but to participate. And so my first big thought, I went to Legacy, and I went to one of the mini masterminds. That was a second Legacy event I went to, and I was working all day around the event, and I had my laptop in the event, and Tim and Mark Evans were like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm working, you know." and and I remember Mark Evans said some. I'm gonna butcher the words, but he got me really good. He's like, "Man, this guy had fine work to do, even if there wasn't." And I'm like, probably, yeah, I guess like I don't know, I can't go
Called you
not having
out.
money, and so that started a thing of systematizing my real estate business, right? I systematized everything. I'd already been writing down my processes for years, but I started building out a team, and I did that. I did that for like 9 months. I invested a ton of money in that. And we haven't really talked about this publicly, but I did not enjoy the role of a team leader at all, honestly.
Mm,
It wasn't a good fit for me. I did not like it. So I went from having like six agents at the peak and a full-time director of operations, which was a very nicely oiled system, super cool. But my income was like less than half, and I was not having fun. So I shuttered that thing down. Now I have 2 dudes who are very good friends who are very involved in my real estate sales business. So I still sell a lot of houses. Rob and Mike are handling a lot of things for me. I'm so grateful for them too in many ways. But anyways, yeah, dude, I guess I needed more time to invest because, I bought my first rental last May or June.
your
Uh,
first one.
yeah, dude, the first one ever, Traverse City. And we bought another one like 8 weeks later, another house in the same neighborhood. And then we bought an 18-unit hotel, like that 15-unit hotel with 3 single families that you've been at. And then we bought a 7-unit apartment complex, then another 18-unit hotel. We're going to buy another 7-unit hotel in the next 30 days. And we'll have another 17 that will convert to 19 or 20 under contract within the next week. So I
That's
knew
insane.
it's it's a fast year and a half. I mean, again, another hockey stick, but it's taken massive investments of time, and I had to be the person worthy of those. I had to become the person worthy of that, you know?
Mm,
Yeah.
man, yes, that. It's
Yeah.
that right there. Become the person that's
Yeah.
worthy of those things.
I did.
So was there a shift for that particularly? Was there a shift where it was like,
Yeah.
or I mean, of course, we've been listening to your story. We know you've been putting in the work. You've been doing the things.
Long
But
time. Yeah.
was there a shift where it was like, okay, now where I'm at is a place where I'm really ready to steward this type of stuff.
Yep. Yes, there was. So I had been selling a lot of properties to people for a long time, helping other people invest. And I was just afraid to take that first step. I think you could probably ask I don't know, a million real estate investors. What was the hardest deal for me was the first one, because I was afraid, of
Right.
doing it on my own, like really putting the rubber to the road. And so when I did that first thing, I did another scare thing that was scary to me in my life. I was like, hey, I got wife and kids, and I have been in very challenging spots with them financially, and I don't want to go back to that. I have this money saved and we're okay. But if I buy this house, I'm like, we're putting a big chunk of that towards us, and that's scary. But when we move, Providence moves too. And like I said, and we took that leap of faith and we did it. And dude, it was awesome. So
Mm.
um yeah, I don't know. I think it's,
This is
you
a leap
know,
of faith.
yeah, it's a culmination of daily decisions and a lot of mini leaps of faith, and getting around people who already, yeah, that's the theme, dude. I mean, I could boil this whole thing down to get around people who have what you want and be humble enough to actually listen to them.
Boom.
Honestly, it's really no secret to this. It's doing it consistently, consistent action on a daily basis, and finding people who know what you don't. Really, you know, there's like how many people you can walk up and be like, "Hey, dude, you want to own 100 doors? Like you want?" And even if people aren't interested, um, I think a lot of people would like to be financially free,
Right.
but 98% of those people allow their fear and lack of faith to stop them from ever doing anything. And it's not about not being scared. It's about having enough faith to take the action anyways, and realizing that you're going to be okay even if you're not. And you just kind of gotta, like, I don't know, dude. We get one shot. I'm trying to take the swings, man.
Consistent action every day.
Yeah.
It's the boring things in life that actually make us a standout. It's by deciding that even on the days that I don't want to do this and it's boring, it's not sexy, no one sees me do it. It's
Right.
those things that boom, hockey stick, now you're a standout. Now
Yeah.
everyone says, "Oh, it must have been easy for you. Oh,
Yeah.
it must have you must have been given something that I wasn't given." But no, you did the things now in the now. You
Yeah.
made the decisions. You surrounded yourself with the right people. You humbled yourself enough to listen to people who had the things that you wanted,
Yeah.
and you moved towards those things. You took step forward.
Right.
God guided those steps and put you in a position because now you're ready to steward those things. And man, I can't even imagine the things that you're going to do with
Thank-
all that you've been given, man. So, is there anything like, of course, you want to make this impact,
Sure.
um, is there something that's on your heart that, man, you really want to push in this direction outside of the business stuff? I know you're pushing hard there. But through all the things that you've been through, is there something that just sits on your heart that you really want to make an impact towards?
Yeah. I don't think anybody's asked me that in a long time. So I love your questions. Also, just a side note, but your questionnaire beforehand, I was sitting next to my wife, Nicole, and she's like, dude, those are some really good questions. I'm like, I
Dude, okay.
know. Nobody asked me these things. She's like, we're good. So yeah, I don't know that anybody's really asked me that in a while. People talk to me about business all day. And but here's what I'll tell you. I don't know. I don't have a great answer for this, but I will tell you the first thing that came to mind when you asked me this question 30 seconds ago was my mom my entire life has said charity starts at home. And this may sound like an atypical answer, but I can have the most impact where I'm at all day long. And my highest priority is to my wife and my children. Okay. And the butterfly effect of raising beautiful, loving, awesome kids and a wife who feels fulfilled are like so big, dude. And so I think that that is my most important thing. And then all the people, man, oof, all the people that I get to have an impact with in like a close setting in business. There's few people like really close to me. And yeah, dude, I don't know. I just think I don't know what else to say other than charity
No,
starts at home.
that's dude,
The way
that's
I carry myself in life has a really big impact on the people who see me every day. And if I didn't carry myself in a way where I was like prioritizing being of service to others and giving it away, then I think it would make it easier for other people to do that too. And
wow.
yeah, I don't want to like underestimate the impact that I have. Like I think a lot. I've been to so many funerals, and I think a lot about. Sounds so morbid, but I think a lot about what my funeral will be like. And it's like a really guiding principle in my life is yeah, I don't know. I don't talk about it too much, but I never really thought about how maybe like self-centered that is. But I think about what I want those people to feel like on that day. Like, hey, this was a guy who really inspired me to do big things and give back. Or like, hey, this guy was kind of a dick who was super successful in business and like bought cool shit to like impress others, but it didn't mean anything. And I don't want to be that second guy so bad. Like I really don't. I just want to um I want to earn the ability to provide opportunities to others who want to make a good life for themselves. It's really all I care about. So
Wow.
that's what I want to do, man. Just be good in my daily life. Not when it sounds cool on Instagram, and I want to actually live it all day as best I can.
That's beautiful, dude. Honestly, I mean, if you're not watching this video, if you're just listening in, I mean, this is what it's like when a man cares for his family in his immediate sphere of influence so much that he's willing to put it all on the line, be as vulnerable as possible, and say, dude, I don't none of that stuff I actually care about. It's these human beings. And it's my
Yeah.
duty to be the best person that I possibly can be so they can have success. They can have the things that I didn't have, the opportunities. They can
Yeah.
have the chance to have time freedom, financial freedom, relationship freedom, all the things that make life beautiful. The money,
Yeah.
the business, the buying the cool stuff, that's cool. Like
It is
it
cool.
is cool,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna keep doing it. You're gonna keep doing
Sure.
it.
Man.
But man, if we lost it all today,
Yeah.
it wouldn't take us down. It wouldn't take us to a place of depression. We wouldn't feel sorrow. We would learn from it. It would suck. Getting your teeth kicked in on that side of things always sucks. But where's the real value? The
Yeah.
value is coming home and having people that love you and want to see you when you walk through the door.
Yeah, for sure. Like I know that my kids just literally don't, they just want to hang out with me. Like they don't give a like they literally don't give a shit how many. I came home yesterday. I'm like, Gracie, Mila, we're buying another hotel in the next month and we're buying another one. We're getting another one. And like, I'm like, do you want to see them? And they're like, no. And I'm like, are you like, can I show you them? And they're like, no. They literally just wanted to hang out, dude. They wanted to hang out and watch a movie with me. And I'm like, man, if this is, if I wasn't present and like mindful and attentive enough to pay attention to that, I think it would be so easy for people to get like misguided and walk down the wrong path. Like, hey, I'm just so focused on this other stuff. But dude, if I say my whole reason for doing this is to provide opportunities for them and be a better dad and husband, but I'm not actually trying to do that. Like I think a lot of people use this as some like cool bullshit they say to be like, because it's socially cool, It's like, hey, I'm doing this for my family, man. And I'm like, yeah, well, you work 25 hours a day and you never call them
Right.
and you don't show up to any of your kids' sports.
Absolutely.
And like, hey, yeah, you make millions of dollars a year, but like you haven't picked up your kid from the bus the whole time they've been in school. I'm
Right.
sorry. I hope I can swear on your podcast, but I'm just like, dude, this is not what I want. It's so far from my actual goal.
Absolutely. Those people care about themselves. Like they're doing it for them.
Yeah.
They're doing it for ego. And if
Okay.
you're doing that, go
Dude,
for it,
no,
but at
yeah.
least be honest about it.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is having enough self-awareness to say that, like, hey, maybe this is a selfish time of my life, and in order to no, I'm trying to make it
Scratch the itch.
yeah, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it just
Beat
bothers
the
me when people
chest.
are like, oh, I'm doing this for my kids, but then I don't know, it's and there's no
There's a lot of
because
chest beating out there. There's a lot of
yeah,
chest beating. There's a lot of people who's, it's almost virtue signaling to say, well, I'm doing all this for someone else, but really, I mean, if you could get a Rolodex of your time, if you could just unroll, this is how I spent every second of today, man,
yeah,
you're gonna find out really quick what your priorities are.
correct.
Really quick.
Yeah, and I'm not judging them because I have had misalignment there. So I want to make that
Absolutely. We've
not
all
per
been there.
yeah, all been there. But a time audit, I've done many time audits in my life to figure out where my priorities actually are in terms of my actions. And, a lot of times they don't align. So I just gotta keep getting back, keep getting the train on the tracks, I suppose.
Yeah. And let's finish with that, man. Talk to us about what a time audit is, because I think that that's a helpful tool for people, as we
Sure.
we finish up this podcast. Talk to us about the time audit and how that's made some impact for you.
Dude, wildly important activity, I think, in life. People say they're about a lot of things and their actions rarely align with it. Like, a lot of new agents will come in and say, hey, Nick, I want to make 100K. And I'm like, what do you do all day? And they're like, I don't know what to do, basically think about how I'm unsuccessful. I'm like, well, that's an issue, we need to address that. And so a time audit is literally like, there have been times where I literally will set an alarm every 15 or 30 minutes on my phone and write down what I've done for that 30 minutes. And, I'll write a smiley face or a sad face or like a medium face next to it. And then you sit back after 3 days and you start to realize, like, hey, I spent 12 hours over the last 3 days of my life staring at TikTok and doom scrolling. And like, does that make me happy? No, it doesn't. Like, no, it doesn't align with my goals of saying I want to make 100K, but I've made 12 grand. And like, I sold one house, but I want to sell 30. Or, I want to own rentals, but I haven't even evaluated a single property this week. And so,
Mm,
yeah, dude, that
that's
happens a
good.
lot for people, it's easy to just get sucked in and busy, I don't know. We are a product of our daily habits and rituals. And if your habits and rituals are not serving you, there's going to be problems. So the sooner you figure that out, the better.
Boom. So get out, get a timer, set a timer on your phone. I
Yeah.
got sitting here right on my desk, little egg timer, $3. Set it for 15 minutes and let that baby go. And
Yeah.
every time that thing dings, and it scares me almost every
Yeah.
time.
That's
But
right.
dude, write it down, find out where your focus is in that moment. But dude, this has been this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. This
Good.
show is about making entrepreneurs human, and we saw a very, very human side of you. And this was absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the show. But really quick, if you were to send people to one place to find out more about you, where would you send them?
Sure. Find me on Instagram. Look up Nick Bastianelli. That's it. I'm active on all social media, but that's the one I'm most active on.
Yep, and I will throw your Instagram handle on the screen here so people can come search you up, and I'll drop it down in the show notes afterwards. But dude, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. I look forward to
I
the
love
next time.
hanging out with you. Thank you.
Take care, brother.
Okay, you too.